This is a battle between me commanding the Ardiaei and Elegance of the First Guards Gaming clan commanding Epirus. And First Guards Gaming, they have some good players, Pokepax, Happy Souls. They've been up there in quite a few tournaments. The reason why I'm bringing Ardiaei is not just to be a hipster. It's because I have enrolled in a tournament where I believe it was called Use It, Lose It. So if you use a faction, you can't use it at any other point in that tournament, which means I want to get some practice in with Rome 2, because if I don't practice, I play like shit. And I want to get some practice in specifically with the weaker factions, because melee units are limited. If you use a faction, you lose the ability to use that faction again. And I think it was max 4 of the same unit, so this army would be illegal in that tournament if that's the case. But anyway, I want to get some practice in with these slightly weaker armies. And Elegance is commanding Epirus here. I'll have a look at his army first. He has 2 Tarentine cavalry on the flanks, one Agranian axeman over here. So he has a total of 2 Agranian axemen. They are a nice little unit to bring for Epirus, because what Epirus lacks is good mid-tier melee options. And these Agranian axemen can do damage with their javelins, then they can close in and do some damage in melee with their axes as well, as long as they don't get charged directly. Their melee stats are not great, but they aren't bad either, and in a flanking role they can do a lot of damage. Then of course we have the Thoreo spears, 1 Thessalian cavalry. So these flanks are sort of defensive against cavalry flanks, and against the Ardiaei, I don't know that's really necessary. These guys would be able to do damage at range, the Tarentines would be able to skirmish, and Thessalians could finish anything off. On the other side, it's slightly, it's also a defensive formation with 2 Thoreos and the Agranians. The center consists of 3 mercenary Samnites here, very high armor, decent defensive stats, but they don't have shield wall, which hurts them a bit. Then we have mercenary Italian swords, and for the price, mercenary Italian swords are very sturdy infantry. They are kind of like Hastati in that regard. And then we have 3 Illyrian levies. So in terms of melee, Epirus brings 3 decent melee units, 3 low tier and 3 shit tier melee units. Now these Royal Peltas also of course a melee unit, and they can be very dangerous against the Ardiaei. My army consists of, I have 4, I believe, yeah, 4 Illyrian cavalry. They are backed up by 2 mercenary Celtic warriors, so a total of 4. In the center I have 4 mercenary axe warriors, and then a massive line of 6 Illyrian noble hoplites. So I have 4 low tier melee units and 4 sort of low mid-tier melee units in the form of mercenary axe warriors. These guys ideally want to join a fight that is already happening. They don't want to get charged themselves, and they need time to make good use of their axes. Then I have some slave javelins. They are mainly there to deal with enemy cavalry and to snipe any important enemy troops. So my plan of attack is of course to engage anything I can with the Illyrian noble hoplites, and then support with Celtics, support with axe warriors, and that's about it. A very simple army setup, but one that has worked very well for me with the Ardiaei. The Illyrian noble hoplites have 30 weapon damage and 8 armor penetration on their spears. In phalanx they effectively get 13 armor penetration and a melee attack of 43 against swords, which for the price isn't great, but they can dish out some damage when used that way. So over here already Elegance wants to start to skirmish with my mercenary Celtic warriors. I'm sure he wanted to get some shots off on these Illyrian cavalry, but I'm just going to ward off the Tarentines with my Celtic warriors. And he's being smart here. It looks like he started firing a bit on the mercenary Celtics, But of course, firing into the front of mercenary Celtics with Tarentines is not the ideal way to be using Tarentine cavalry, so he just pulls away. He doesn't want to waste his ammunition on that. But there isn't much for his Tarentines to do in this particular case against the Ardiaei. Cavalry can also struggle a bit against the Ardiaei because of the Illyrian Noble Hoplites. They have expert charge defense, and if they stand still and get hit by shock cavalry, the shock cavalry is going to take massive casualties. Now these axe warriors are perfect targets for cavalry, so are the mercenary Celtics. One good charge from the Thessalians, these units are going to be off the field, which is why I just shield them and go very wide. So it's going to be hard for Epirus to flank me here, because as you can see, my melee units extend further out than his melee units. I'm going to start to rotate my lines. Since he has Samnites here, and this is the weakest flank, I'm going to start rotating away from his flank here and get closer to this flank, which is the one I want to engage. This is his weakest flank. So I'm going to start to rotate towards that flank. And doing that is also going to put more distance between this flank and my flank here. But he follows up, so we could essentially rotate like this forever and never engage. So at some point, if your opponent keeps rotating with you, like if he keeps rotating with me this way, at some point I'm going to have to engage, or else we'll just keep rotating forever. But this is the flank where his general is. This is the flank where I want to engage. These units the Illyrian levies could break very quickly, and I could overwhelm the Theraeus flank and get at his general, which is what I want to do, because I need every advantage I can get here against Epirus. My melee line is stronger than his melee line. I'm fairly certain of that, but I could run into problems if I'm not able to stop the Thessalians, because the Thessalians could wreck me with rear charges. So at this point, I see that he's starting to does a smart thing here. He sort of refuses this flank. He wants to put more distance between himself and me on the flank where I'm trying to engage him. But now I figure, oh, what the hell, let's just go straight in. I see he's moving forward. He doesn't have attack orders, so I'm going to try to catch several of these mercenary Samnite warriors with one of my Illyrian Noble Hoplites. Now he turns around and gets the charge here, but this has allowed one Illyrian Noble Hoplite to trap two mercenary one mercenary Italian sword and one Samnite, which is great for me. Over here, I aim for breaking his Illyrian levies very quickly, and just look at those men drop very quickly. Now he does a smart thing here in pulling away from the engagement and getting his Royal Peltas in towards my general. That might be a problem for my general. Sending the mercenary axe warriors in as the second line means that they will get a lot of kills here. The mercenary Italian swords took a beating. Now I'm going to send the mercenary axe warriors in here against mercenary Samnites. They should do a decent job there. Here we have some general and general options. The Royal Peltas did not get a charge. That was very important for me. So I want to send my Illyrian Noble Hoplites in to flank these Royal Peltas. And look at the amount of friendly fire being done here by the Theraeus. They're firing now into the unshielded sides here of the Royal Peltas. They're also doing a lot of damage to my Illyrian Noble Hoplites. So depending on how things play out, this could be worth it. Managed to get my Noble Hoplites into these Tarentines over here. I charge the Theraeus spears with my cavalry to stop them from firing. I charge the Agrianians, charge the Theraeus with my mercenary Celtic warriors. And now these flanks are starting to look pretty good, because I'm able to send my Illyrian cavalry into the Thessalians, stop them from getting a charge, follow up with mercenary Celtic warriors against Theraeus spears. And look at how quickly the Theraeus spears drop now. They do move into square, which is going to help them hold out for longer. These Theraeus spears losing decisively the Agranian axemen. I should have pulled out the Illyrian cavalry and gone around here, but I've been able to hold off all of these units and now send in another mercenary axe warrior. The Illyrian levies, of course, just broke. Mercenary Celtics love fighting Theraeus, very cost-effective engagement for them. My Illyrian Noble Hoplites do weird shit here. I don't quite know what they're doing. My general is taking a beating from the Royal Peltas, unfortunately for me. The Agranian axemen also very good at grinding down Illyrian Noble Hoplites. Now the Thessalians, I stop them with the Illyrian Noble Hoplites, then fire with slave javelins. So these Thessalians should be off the field pretty soon, very important. These Illyrian cavalry actually lose against the Thessalians. The Thessalians are winning decisively, even though I wasn't able to get a charge. But now I pull out the Illyrian cavalry from this engagement and start rear charging. And you see the mercenary Samnites don't much like being attacked in the rear. The mercenary Italian swords are losing decisively. Over here, they are also losing decisively against the Illyrian noble hoplites. But the Illyrian noble hoplites are about to go down. Not the most cost-effective engagement for them at all. I have some free cavalry units, which is nice. The Royal Peltas, I managed to sort of make my guys bug out less by giving another attack order. So the Royal Peltas are finally going down, but this is not a cost-effective engagement for me at all. I'm using 2 hoplites to kill 1 melee unit, which, I mean, it's not the best. So since my general unit broke anyway, I'm just going to be friendly firing the crap out of this engagement. I really want to kill the enemy general with my slave javelins. This engagement over here should start to break through pretty soon, and I need to, because now I'm in a situation where I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 units fighting up against 3 units, and that's not an engagement I want. That is, if I start getting rear charge here, I might be in trouble. But I did manage to get my Celtics to fire precursors on the Thessalians, send in the Illyrian cavalry, and it's so important to use these units together to overpower enemy cavalry. Because if I don't do that, then the Thessalians would just destroy Illyrian cavalry very, very easily. Now the mercenary Celtic warriors are starting to lose here, I think. Yep, the general is dead, so that is a problem. Celtic warriors don't have great morale, of course. The Illyrian noble hoplites are winning against the Ardiaei axemen. I'm just going to make it a bit easier for them by sending in a rear charge with the Illyrian cavalry. And the Ardiaei axemen should drop very rapidly, even getting charged by medium melee cavalry. Getting into the Tarentines here with my Illyrian cavalry, charging in, holding them off. But you can see how much help these units need to decisively defeat mercenary Samnites. The mercenary axe warriors 34 kills, 48 kills, and the Illyrian noble hoplites at 100. But at this point, things have really started to turn around. The Royal Peltas, not done yet. They have about 150 kills, but they're about to drop. The Ardiaeians are about to drop. And now it looks like it's chain route city for Epirus here. And that is it. So, Epirus. Epirus is one of the factions that Ardiaei can potentially do well against, but I did really have to get the proper engagements and try to tie down all of his melee with my Illyrian noble hoplites. And you see, the noble hoplites that fought the Royal Peltas did horribly. The Royal Peltas held their own against 2 units there. But the mercenary Samnites, unsupported, and the don't do too well when charged by Illyrian noble hoplites. I think these 2 were the units that fought the Royal Peltas, and you can see how poorly they did. Whereas the mercenary Celtic warriors did a great job because they fought spears. And I kind of question bringing Thoreo spears against the Ardiaei, because the Ardiaei cavalry is not dangerous. Like, I charged a lot of stuff with my Illyrian cavalry, and they barely broke 30 kills. And also Tarentines, a bit risky to bring them against the Ardiaei. But it was a fun game, because this is an army I haven't faced from Epirus before, and I liked seeing that people start bringing these Ardiaei axemen, because the playstyle that you can, the playstyle with the Ardiaeians, with first skirmishing and then going for flanks and stuff like that, can be very fun. Now, more Thessalians could be nice against the Ardiaei, but on the other hand, they die easily to precursors, they die easily to spears, so might not be the best choice. But if I was going to fight, I always like to consider what would I have done if I was facing the Ardiaei with the faction that my opponent had. So in that case, the Royal Peltas general, I think that's a decent choice against the Ardiaei. And let's see here. Yeah, the mercenary Samnites are kind of a given. Mercenary Italian swords. Yep, I also like bringing those against the Ardiaei. Now, I would like to have some Thessalians on my side, because they can deal with the supporting units of Ardiaei very, very rapidly. So let's say that I have these 4 Illyrian Noble Hoplites, I have these 4 Mercenary Axe Warriors, I have these 4 Mercenary Celtic Warriors, and a lot of the time you will see some Thureos for the Ardiaei as well, maybe some Illyrian Cavalry. Something like this is pretty standard Ardiaei stuff. Then you have something left for upgrades, or you can instead of bringing Illyrian Thureos, you could bring Illyrian Marines instead, and you still have the funds left to upgrade something. So actually you could go for Illyrian Marines. That could also be a nice Ardiaei setup. So the Samnites do reasonably well against Celtics, do reasonably well against Axe Warriors. The Royal Peltas can do really well if they join a fight that is already going on. Now, in terms of skirmish against the Ardiaei, you're going to have a hard time killing the Noble Hoplites with archers, slingers, even the Mercenary Rhodians. So bringing Agrionians, not the worst idea. They can also do well against Thureos on the charge. Mercenary Italian Cavalry, very nice, heavy melee cavalry. I wouldn't bring any of these skirmish units against any mounted skirmishers against Ardiaei. It's simply not needed. As for the Illyrian levies are not really needed when you have Agrionians. And I like the Agrionians. Just they're not the most powerful unit, but they can be fun to use. So let's see, you have some Agrionians. Now, a problem for Epirus against the Ardiaei is potentially getting, of course, the very powerful charge of the Illyrian Noble Hoplites. Because all of these units here can be dealt with by just one rear charge or one frontal charge by Thessalians, and they're basically done. The problem is if they're supported by Illyrian Cavalry and Illyrian Marines. So it's very, very nice to have some cheap units like Militia Hoplites to just push up towards the Thureos while they're being supported by melee units. So something like this, I'd probably try something like this against Epirus, or you can even bring more. You can go, if you don't want any melee cavalry, which melee cavalry can be a bit unnecessary against the Ardiaei, you could, for example, bring 4 Militia Hoplites and then 5 Thessalians if the rules you play under would allow that. But that was a fun game, a good game. You can see that Elegance was very conscious about what I was doing. He was rotating with me, and he was sort of starting to refuse his flank on the side that I would prefer to engage on, but then it turned out that I couldn't engage there because he refused his flank. So instead I just sent everything in the flank that he was rotating towards me, and it ended up working because I had so many melee units to throw into the mix, which is often the case in Rome too. But the Ardiaei have to use their hoplites like shock infantry, go in first, absorb the damage, and then these other units follow up. So I hope you enjoyed that battle. I certainly did. It was great to have some 1v1 action in Rome 2 again, so thanks to Elegance for inviting me to play some games with him. We also played a game in Napoleon. I think I'm going to be uploading that because that was a lot of fun as well. Strength and honor.